evening and welcome to our Democracy 2019 special highlighting Tampa City election tonight. I'm Wendy Ryan.
And I'm Jamison Euler. The polls just closed over about an hour ago. The results are coming in right now as we speak. More than 26,000 Tampa residents cast their votes before today through early voting and vote by mail ballots, with 2,100 people casting ballots on Sunday, which was the last day of early voting. Now, despite a lower than average early turnout, an open race for mayor hopes to bring out as many people around the city as possible.
Now let's take a look at the results of the major race on the ballot for Tampa's new mayor as it stands right now. Jane Castor took the lead early on and has held it, as you can see there, 48% of the vote, with David Straz at 15% and Harry Cohen with 12%. As we look at the next page, we've got Ed Taranchik with 9%, Dick Greco Jr. with 9%, and Mike Suarez with just 5%.
We have 7 candidates entering this race to succeed Bob Buckhorn as Tampa's mayor. We are now down to 2.
That's right. And tonight, again, Jane Castor in the lead, but she's just short of taking the election by herself. ABC Action News reporter Carson Chambers joining us live at her watch party with her supporters' reactions to those results. Carson?
Hey guys, we are live inside the vault in downtown Tampa, just steps away from the Tampa Police Department where Jane Castor first started her career as a police officer 31 years ago. Want to give you a look at the crowd here. Here she comes. She has got 23,000 votes at this point, but she needs more than 50% to actually avoid a runoff. So right now, she is really fighting the numbers game. Will she have enough to get and beat that 50%? We do not know at this point, but with 93 out of 103 precincts reporting, let's listen to what Jane has to say. So it looks like Jane Castor is going to address her crowd inside the vault on Franklin Street this evening. A lot of notable folks in the room. She ran on her record as chief of police for 8 years, 31 years with the Tampa Police Department. One of her big platforms was reducing crime for 70% for the city of Tampa. So very, very close here. A little bit more than 48% at this point, with 93 precincts reporting. We'll get back to you as soon as we have something definitive.
All right, thank you, Carson. Just a short time ago, the Tampa Bay Times saying Jane Castor, of course, going to be one of those candidates that perhaps in that April runoff, probably 1 or 2 percentage points less than she's going to need in that majority vote. So we're probably going to have a runoff here. David Straz is carving out second place in the spot tonight. The well-known philanthropist and businessman has spent more than $3 million of his own money on this campaign.
That's right. And our ABC Action News reporter Ryan Smith joining us live tonight with Straz supporters at the Lowry Park Zoo, watching the results stream in. Ryan, how's it going out there?
Wendy and Jamison, yes, I can tell you it certainly is a family affair here at Zoo Tampa tonight. As we pan over, you can see a bit of the crowd, the supporters here. We just heard them actually uproar and a cheer a few minutes ago, and that was the moment when we've documented tonight when the frontrunner Jane Castor fell below that 50% threshold, thus making a runoff election all the more likely. And to get their take, I want to bring in one of Mr. Straz's supporters here tonight with us here. This is Vicky Hops. Vicky, first of all, thanks for joining us. So this has been truly a crowded field of candidates. What was it about your candidate that you liked from the get-go?
Mr. Straz is a family man, and he has a lot of family values that I was raised with, so I kind of connected with him immediately.
Yeah. And you know, tonight we see Mr. Straz up on the big board. He's in second place, but a deep second place. It could go to runoff, but he's still deep second. How do you feel about that? Cause for concern?
Not really. I can take deep second. All we want is another chance to continue fighting.
And if he is elected at some point, what's the #1 topic, the #1 issue you want them to focus on?
Affordable housing. Affordable housing is a great need that we have in the city of Tampa, and he believes in affordable housing as well. So that would be the first thing that I'd like for him to talk to the people about for the city of Tampa.
David Straz supporter Vicky Hops joining us tonight live, and we appreciate that, Vicky, and we will continue to stay zoned in here on the results as they trickle in here at Zoo Tampa tonight. Reporting live in Tampa, Ryan Smith, ABC Action News.
Ryan, thank you. And now we want to bring in our political expert, Dr. Susan McManus, who gives us a broader scope here for what this election means for our area.
Yes, so welcome, Susan. In your opinion, what does the city's mayor's election have to do with the state and especially the upcoming presidential election? How important is it to Florida?
It's very important because big city mayors play a key role in their party's candidate for president. How to maneuver the state, where to go, what groups to talk to, how to raise money, all the above. And everybody knows that Florida is going to be one of the biggest swing states in the presidential race next year.
Any surprises so far than what you've seen today?
Not really. These two were sort of neck and neck a long way, not really neck and neck, but from the get-go, it was Castor's race to lose. Now she's got a stiff competitor, even though he got 15%. It'll be a really tight race, I think, going forward. But it is interesting that David Strazz's ads have already drawn the contrast that he wants there. The red light cameras and no racial profiling, no red light cameras. Almost he anticipated what would be the sharpest contrast between he and Castor. So I presume from the get-go he thought that she would be the front runner as well and wanted to cast himself, and his ads are already positioned on those two issues.
Seems like it.
Yeah, so the runoff now is April 23rd. Why so far away? We're here in March. Why do we have to wait a month and a half to find out who our next mayor is going to be?
It has to do with election laws. For example, there are stringent rules that say that people who are overseas have to receive a ballot to vote. So you have to work back from the time that it takes to get all of the legal election timetables met. And of course, the other argument is you want people to really focus now. You have two to focus on, a choice of two, and it's a big important position, and it allows people that haven't paid too much attention to have a final say in who's their next mayor.
What about the low turnout that we had? It seems like that's been the problem all along. Of course, just generally, Republicans seem to come out more than Democrats. Do you think that will play, again, a factor in the runoff?
It normally is the case that Republicans vote at a higher rate. But I think a lot of the lower turnout compared to the last time when we didn't have an incumbent in the race, which should have been 2011, is simply because a lot of people have reached saturation in politics. You have we call it voter fatigue.
Yes.
And there's some of that. You can see it in the results.
I would imagine this. We got another 6 weeks till a runoff here because it looks like it's going to be a runoff. We've got about 4 precincts left if my numbers here are correct. If we have a runoff, another 6 weeks, does that benefit Jane Castor or does it benefit David Straz Jr. to have time for the voters to get to know them a little bit better?
The time, of course, is most important to the person who's trailed the front runner. So he's got a lot of catching up to do. She nearly got half right by herself. What will also be quite interesting is to see who the candidates that aren't in the runoff, who will they throw their support to and how much difference that will make. So we'll be watching that.
What's your answer? Who would you bet? Like, especially Mayor Buckhorn, who do you think he'll throw his support behind, which might impact how people vote?
Absolutely, and he said that he's going to endorse someone in the runoff. He stayed quiet in this. I am fully expecting him to endorse Jane Castor, and maybe as soon as tomorrow, I don't know. But he has said that he's going to play a big role in this race. His commentary was that he feels like he's done a lot of changes that are good for the city, and he wants that to be carried on, his legacy to be carried on, and the growth of the city in the direction that he has laid out as when he was mayor. So.
Yeah, and if the numbers hold up here, if Jane Castor does win that runoff, it looks as though she's going to be working with an all-male city council because the female candidates who are going up against those council members right now trailing pretty badly tonight. So
a lot of incumbent wins in the council races. Not surprising. Some of the women one woman in particular entered a little bit late. A lot of people thought she would have done better if she had entered early on. But let's face it, if you vote strictly on the basis of gender, would you rather have a mayor, if you're a female and you vote just on gender, or would you just want to have a couple council members? Obviously, you'd like to have both. But a big city mayor, a female, is, you know, one of, again, this city's legacy. We've had, you know, Mayor Friedman and Mayor Iorio.
Right.
We have a history of it here.
We do.
Yeah. Well, I would have to say too, Jane Castor really, besides being a female, her name is known, being police chief for so many years. So I have to think her name really comes before the fact that she is a woman, but still in a leadership role.
Absolutely. Name recognition goes a long way, and knowing neighborhoods and knowing people by name that she's come across in those 30-some years that she was active here in Tampa, that goes a long ways. And that's one of the things that you look at this race is that Straz was pretty much an unknown in terms of running for office. He spent millions to get name recognition up to the point where he came in #2.
Right.
She didn't have to spend nearly that much, and she was #1 in terms of turnout and vote.
And she's worked a lot with the city council as police chief as well, so there's going to be some familiarity there as well.
Right. But it's going to be an interesting race, and I guarantee you we'll have some hot forums and some more town halls and lots of action. It's a big, important race, as we've said.
Yeah, we look forward to the debates. We'll bring you back for the debates, too.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you,
Susan
for being
McManus,
here.
thank you so much. Now, with so many candidates for mayor, we're very likely to go to a runoff election, as we're talking about. With that, there are some key dates you need to know here. You have until March 25th to register for the runoff election. Early voting starts on April 14th, and then the runoff election that day is April 23rd. Now, if none of the 7 candidates earn more than 50% of the vote tonight, which looks like it might turn out that way, it's going to trigger that runoff between the top 2 candidates.
Meanwhile, there were 18 total amendments on the ballot today. Some were just housekeeping issues, but we're looking at the 4 most important. Amendment 4 would put all city ordinances on the city website within 7 days before adoption. That's now on pace to pass with well over 50% of the vote needed. Amendment 7 could clarify that the city council chairman does not become acting mayor when the mayor is outside of city boundaries or when the mayor is simply unable to serve. That's also on pace to pass. Amendment 11 gives the mayor more time in the case where he needs to appoint someone to the city council. Before the amendment, he had 30 days, but this would give him a total of 90 days to make that decision. This one also expected to pass. And Amendment 16 changes the city charter to prohibit discrimination of all kinds. It also calls on all city employees to take anti-discrimination training. This also on pace to pass tonight.
All 7 city council seats also up for grabs in tonight's election. In District 1, we have 5 candidates, and right now, if you're looking at those numbers there, Joseph Citro is in the lead.
That's right. Let's go on to District 2. 3 men are vying for the seat, including incumbent Charlie Miranda, and you just saw it there with 58%. John Godman with just 23%.
Now to District 3, 4 candidates vie for the last of the at-large city council seats, and John Dingfelder right now leading at 49%.
And District 4 runs through South Tampa. That seat is actually currently held by Carrie Cohen, who turned down and is now running for mayor. As you know, 3 people are in the race, with Bill Carlson taking the lead at 51% and winning that one. In District 5, 5 candidates are looking to represent East Tampa, which includes Ybor City. Frank Reddick left the seat after he was term limited, taking a look there, and Guido Maniscalco with 61% of the vote.
That's a District 6 that we're looking at right there. Guido Maniscalco,
the one before.
Guido Maniscalco right now leading 61% there. 2-person races prior to a possible runoff election. Guido Maniscalco looks like he's going to beat Wendy Pepe there to regain his seat, covering most of West Tampa. As you can see the results right there. Now, the last city council seat up for grabs has Luis Vieira and Quentin Robinson going after the northern part of Tampa. Vieira is the incumbent there, and at 76%, it looks as though he is going to stay that way, and he is, with 100% of the precincts now reporting. Wendy.
With the new mayor coming in, Tampa's leader Bob Buckhorn starts his transition today by voting. We take a look back at his 8 years as mayor.
The greatest job in the world. That's what Tampa Mayor Bob Buckhorn believes he's leaving in May when term limits decide who will take office. Mayor Buckhorn became leader of the city after he won the mayor's election in 2011, thanks in part to an endorsement from outgoing Mayor Pam Iorio. Today, he placed his vote for someone else, but unlike his predecessor, he did not reveal who that was.
You know, I'm not going to tell you. But I will tell you that I voted for the person that I think is best capable of taking this agenda and taking this momentum and moving it forward.
In his 8 years in office, Mayor Buckhorn had many accolades, including finishing a project that was 40 years in the making, Tampa's Riverwalk. But that might not be his most proud accomplishment in office.
I mean, you think about how far we've come over the last 8 years, from the worst recession since the Great Depression to a place in America where the best and the brightest now want to be. People who live here are excited about the future.
And Buckhorn's time in office was not without controversy. He was criticized when he pointed a gun full of blanks at journalists, later joking about them, quote, crying like little girls. His Twitter account was also hacked just a few weeks ago, full of threats to city staff and Tampa International Airport. Still, Tampa residents approve of his job. Just last year, a citywide poll showed 75% approved of his performance. Now, Mayor Buckhorn leaves office with a little advice for the person who comes next.
Everything that you want this city to be is embodied in the mayor. So if you're optimistic and you're hopeful and you're ambitious and you're driven, so too will the people who live here, and so too will this community.
When asked what's next for Mayor Buckhorn, he says he's going on vacation.
All right, and before we go, let's take one last look at the most updated numbers here for the Tampa mayor's race. We now have 99% of the precincts reporting. Jane Castor at 48%, David Straz Jr. with 15%. That is going to trigger a runoff election just 6 weeks from now. We will continue to update the numbers of this election tonight on our website, abcactionnews.com, and we'll have updates on any runoffs on air and on the web.
And we will have a full breakdown of today's election on ABC Action News at 11, and we will see you then. Thanks for joining us.